Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey folks, welcome to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salazar Jr. Welcome back to the pod, the I always mess it up. My brother calls it the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Welcome back. You can check out this podcast. You can check out the blog on the Substack. Go over there right now and check it out. You can listen to all the podcasts. You can watch all the video podcasts. You can check out all the memes, all of the articles for free on the Substack. Go check it out at spacecadetsports.substack.com. You could put your email in there into a field. You get every single post directly mailed to your email box for free. That's right, folks. You can do that for free. You could also get an app on that on the Substack page there. You can get the Substack app where you can get every single thing from the blog pushed to your phone. You get notifications instead of emails if that's your vibe. I definitely like the app experience more than the traditional blog experience, but that's just me. Just a little something there for you if you're interested in it, folks. I'm your host, Paul Salazar Jr. I'm a comedy writer, silly goose, actor, Shakespearean. I am just a Houstonian that loves Houston Astros baseball. I'm a diehard fan. That's why I made this podcast. This podcast is your home for Houston Astros news, and to be a diehard Houston Astros fan in this sports world of toxicity, this is your positive place to follow the Astros all season long. Welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome if you've never been here before. This is your Houston Astros home. Thank you for being here. With all that toxicity talk, just kind of our mission statement here is, a lot of sports journalism is about negativity and toxicity and being haters, whether you're a hater of other teams or you're a hater of your own club. There's a lot of Houston Astros fans that love to hate on the Astros. We try not to do that here. Sports is very much an emotional place. It's a place to talk about your emotions and your feelings for sure, but we try not to be too toxic here at the Space Cadet Sports blog and podcast. But yeah, welcome. We're so happy you're here. Today, we are doing an emergency pod. I definitely have been a little under the weather lately, and I haven't been doing as many podcasts and blog posts as I have wanted to, as I am getting back to full health and full strength. This is a passion project. As much as I love doing this, there are a lot of things in my life that require attention. So when I got sick, a lot of the things on the back burner, a lot of the peripheral things had to take a little bit of a back seat. So I'm happy to be back into the swing of things. I did like a little short podcast yesterday where I was in I did about half of my notes and was like, I'll do the rest tomorrow. And I'm glad I did, because Jose Abreu was in my notes to talk about yesterday. And if I would have talked about that, I probably would have looked a little silly or a little foolish, because today the Houston Astros just last hour announced that they have cut ties with Jose Abreu. Jose Abreu is no longer on the team's roster. There's no corresponding roster move announced just yet. It is noon Pacific Standard Time, as I am out here in Los Angeles. I am a Houston native and Houston Astros diehard, but as I mentioned earlier, I am an entertainment industry professional. So I live out here in Los Angeles. Out here it is about noon. We have not heard a corresponding roster move for the Abreu cut decision quite yet. That's still going to drop. It'll probably happen later today. The Astros might be playing a man short at home versus Detroit. We will see. I don't have the Sugarland Space Cowboys schedule in front of me. I don't know if they're on the road or if they are in Sugarland currently. So we will figure out who the corresponding roster move is later, and we will see if they are available to join the club today. But that being said, obviously the big news today is Jose Abreu. It is a sad day. It is a bittersweet day here at the Space Cadet Sports Podcast because here, as opposed to everywhere else, we were rooting for Jose Abreu. I have been popping off buttons all season long trying to get this guy's mojo back. My button, I don't have any buttons left to unbutton. I just have one little button that I have yet to unbutton at the bottom of my shirt. Everything else is just unbuttoned now. So we were rooting for Jose Abreu here. We were rooting for him to find his swing. We were rooting for him to find his swagger. Unfortunately, it has been a rough road for Jose Abreu as a Houston Astro. I texted some friends today. I texted my Houston Astros group chat. I texted one of my baseball friends, Peter. Peter is a huge New York Yankees fan, so we're always talking baseball. I texted him to let him know about the Abreu news, and he jokingly was like, "What did you do to the MVP? What happened there?" But, let's look at a little bit at what happened here. So, obviously, in 2023, the Houston Astros signed Jose Abreu to a 3-year, almost $60 million contract at the age of 36. Now, this happened during the time when there was no general manager for the Houston Astros. This was after Jim Crane fired James Click, and the Astros were operating without a general manager. This was famously the time when I almost said Click, but Crane, owner Jim Crane, signed Rafael Montero, and he signed Jose Abreu. So these are kind of the decisions that a lot of Astros fans have been extremely critical of, and rightfully so, because it seemed like a man's hubris of firing his general manager after winning a World Series because they didn't get along, and then making some very emotional or very unsound baseball decisions by signing Rafael Montero and Jose Abreu. Now, we can say they're unsound because we're looking at the results, of course. Now, signing a middle relief pitcher like Rafael Montero is always going to be a risky signing. Relief pitchers tend to have really up and down seasons. They tend to go on roller coaster rides, and you kind of look at the average of their performances to look at how they trend. Relief pitchers can always be a little bit of a tricky signing. However, the Abreu signing has been what has gotten all of Astros fans really riled up, whether you're a long-term diehard fan like myself, or whether you're a casual fan that only tweets or only X's on X if you're an X-boy, or if you're one of those AM radio boomer callers that, no matter who you were as an Astros fan, no matter what little box I can put you in to make fun of you about, most people hated the Abreu signing. Originally off the top when he was signed, people were like, "We did it. We have an all-star first baseman." After the World Series victory, the Astros were carrying 2 first basemen on their roster, Trey Mancini and, of course, Yuli Gurriel La Pena. And both of them were question marks going into the next season because they were not going to be on contract. A lot of people say that Jeff Bagwell was, as an assistant to the owner, in baseball operations, was the main proponent for signing Jose Abreu. And he has carried a lot of the hate for Jose Abreu signing since he's been signed. So if we look at it, when Jose Abreu joined the team in 2023, his final stats weren't quite as awful as people remember that season to be. He ended up batting .237 with a .296 on-base percentage and a .680 OPS, bringing his OPS plus to just 87. Now, that is his lowest OPS plus of his whole career. The only time he didn't actually ever, I was going to say the only time he hit his OPS was under 100, under the average. He had never, up until the Astros season, never had an OPS plus that was under 100. He got that OPS plus at 87 that season, and this season his OPS plus is at 4. You don't have to be a mathematician to know that when you're looking for 100, 4 is not where you want to be. When you're trying to get that OPS plus, his highest OPS plus of his career has been, let's see, 173. That was his first year, his 2014 season with the White Sox. So when you're looking at his ceiling and when you're looking at his floor, and his floor was this year, it's looking pretty tough when your floor is happening at the age of 37 and it looks like you are really struggling to maintain the form that you had in your earlier career. I was optimistic about Abreu. I really was like, this guy might be struggling. He might be falling off a little bit as he's aging, but putting him in this Astros lineup where he will be able to hide a little bit during some bad games will be great for him. Obviously, last season he started off really slow. The Astros were hitting pretty well, or maybe they weren't hitting quite as well. They have hit very well this season despite their win-loss records, but at least they were winning games. And Jose Abreu was able to hide behind a lot of the Astros' success, whether that's in the lineup or in the win-loss records, until he got right and actually was able to have a decent season last season. Like that, I'll take that from your first baseman. He ended up hitting 18 home runs, which was more home runs than the previous season with the White Sox. He hit 90 RBIs, which was more RBIs than the previous season with the White Sox. So, really, when you're looking at that, his bat speed was down, his walks was down. There were things that weren't looking good, but overall, at the end of the season last year, it wasn't too terrible. So going into this season, I was like, okay, he might be like Bregman. He might be off to a slow start. He might be able to figure it out as he goes. He will have to be hidden in that lineup. With Dusty Baker gone, if we are able to get Jose Abreu to bat in the bottom third of this lineup instead of the heart of this lineup, maybe hiding him will be a little bit easier than it was last season. Boy, was I wrong. Had to take a quick second there to sip my coffee as I make my point, but boy was I wrong, folks. Jose Abreu had a really tough season this season. He's only hit 14 hits with the Astros in 120 plate appearances. Once again, you don't have to be a mathematician. That is not good. Those were not the results that we were looking for Jose Abreu. Jose Abreu was sent down to the minor leagues. He was in West Palm Beach for quite some time. And when he came back, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I watch all of the games. I always say this is a fan podcast. While I might have limited baseball knowledge and limited baseball experience, what I do is I watch all of the games. I read almost all of the articles. Watching all of these games, truly, when Jose Abreu came back, he was better. Now, am I trying to say Jose Abreu came back and he's exactly who I wanted starting every day at first base? Absolutely not. I was very much petitioning for Jose Abreu to come back. I was saying we need to root for this guy. He's on the roster. He's taking up money. The owner obviously isn't ready to walk, on this guy. We need to be rooting for him. If he's going to be part of the team, you root for your team. I'm not the type of guy that is going to root against a player on his team unless it's someone that is completely unfortunate or just completely disrespectful to who I am as a person or my morals. If it's just a baseball player and they're struggling to play baseball, I am going to root for them if they've got Houston across their chest. So I was very much rooting for Jose Abreu, but I was rooting for him when he came back in a platoon position. Watching his at-bats when he came back from his minor league stint, his bat speed was better. He was looking at the ball better. He had a whole lot more confidence, that's for sure. We really needed that confidence and swagger back. His confidence was higher. He hit 2 home runs, obviously, when he came back. And he's only been back from West Palm Beach for, maybe 3 weeks now, I want to say. 4 weeks, maybe a month. But he did hit a couple home runs. He has looked better. But overall, he has not looked better than John Singleton. And that's just honesty. That's no disrespect to Abreu, no disrespect to Singleton, no disrespect meant to anybody. At the end of the day, you're looking to put your best player out in the lineup, and it was very apparent that Abreu was not the best first baseman on this squad. It was very much John Singleton. When John Singleton was playing, the Astros had a little bit more success. They had a little bit more swagger. And that's tough because Jose Abreu is actually, and actually as if it's a surprise, but Jose Abreu is a very, very good person. He works so hard in the community. He works hard with a bunch of nonprofits. He works hard for mental health issues. Jose Abreu as a person is a wonderful person and a wonderful spokesperson and a great clubhouse leader. And it is really tough to see him struggle, and it's really tough to talk so strongly about his baseball performances when I think he is a wonderful man, and I was really rooting for him to be part of the Astros as he retires and to find some success with this team. I really was rooting for Jose Abreu to get a World Series ring with the Astros. He's a great player. He's a great man. He deserves it. Unfortunately, Father Time is undefeated. I really think what happened with Abreu, there isn't too much you can do when you're losing that bat speed, when you are kind of, when you feel that vision kind of going a bit from you. I cannot relate to this very strongly, but what I can relate to is I talk about my baseball playing experience, and we joke about it here on the podcast because my baseball playing experience is very limited. So I, this is a comedy podcast. I am saying this with a little grain of salt. I am being a little silly, but truly, I can relate to when you're in the batter's box and you start to realize that you don't have what it takes. Now for me, I didn't regress. My skills didn't regress as a player. What happened is everybody else's skills around me got so much better that it felt like my skills were regressing. Trying to hit that slider that is coming down and away from you was a huge struggle for me. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have what it takes. Sometimes there's no amount of tweaks or adjustments to your stance that is going to get you to have better physical results. I could see that Jose Abreu was very much struggling with his lower bat speed and his vision, and it was very tough to see. And really at the end of the day, John Singleton is the first baseman that the Astros needed out there. I was getting increasingly frustrated. Now, the Astros did have a above 500 month so far, but truly, or I believe they are at 500 now. But anyway, I'm just trying to say the Astros have been really mediocre, but the frustration for me is that they need to be great right now, and they were starting a lot of Abreu over Singleton. They brought up Abreu for the Mariners series versus the A series. There's all these things that I was like, man, they are not putting Abreu in a position to succeed. They really should be rotating him in. They really should be platooning him here. They're really giving him a lot of heavy, they're spoon-feeding him a lot of starts. And it really looks like what they were doing is just trying to see what they would get out of Abreu. It looks like after they sent him down, perhaps they were ready to move quickly from Abreu if Abreu wasn't going to give them the results that they were looking for at first base. They kind of put him in the position to see where he was at, to see if he would succeed or if he would struggle. They did the 80s dad equivalent of throwing your child into the deep end and seeing if they would swim. When Abreu came back from West Palm Beach, they took his floaties off, they threw him into the deep end, he started sinking. Luckily, they pulled him out of there. He was flailing, he was struggling. And it's hard. I say these things lightly, but I really do respect Abreu. I really hope that wherever he goes next, he's able to find some success, whether that's in Major League Baseball or another type of league. I know it must be tough to go out like this, so I'm really rooting for Abreu. I think it's kind of silly, for fans to to be hating too much on this man right now. He really did a lot of good work in the Houston community in his short time here. He is a good person. So I'm not trying to dunk on him, and I don't think you should either. He's a good man. We're rooting for him to find success wherever he goes. He did not ruin the Houston Astros or anything silly like that. This was this man trying to play baseball the best he can. Really at the end of the day, this guy's contract and this guy's signing lays on Jim Crane. You could put it on Bagwell or anything else like that, but Bagwell wasn't the general manager. Jim Crane is the owner. He owns this decision, whether it's Jeff Bagwell's decision or his. It truly is the owner's decision, and the owner should be the one criticized for this contract, not Jeff Bagwell, who didn't even have a position. He's an advisor. This is not an advisor's fault. It is not Jose Abreu's fault, who is aging and trying to figure out how to play baseball in the twilight of his career. This is truly the man who deserves the criticism for this is Jim Crane, the owner. He signed the contract. It didn't go well, and he sent him down to the minors. That didn't go well either, and now we're cutting him and moving on from him. This is a sad day, and this is Jim Crane. This is Jim Crane who's going to have to wear this loss. He's going to have to pay for the Abreu contract, both in the public's eye and financially. And it's not a good thing to cut ties from a big free agent signing like this and have him walk and pay that contract and kind of be tied to him financially until the end of next season. It's like it is a sad day. It isn't good. The Astros moving on from Abreu is a good thing, though. We can have more Singleton starting. John Singleton has been, maybe he hasn't been a revelation for the Houston Astros, but he has been a serviceable first baseman and has been a first baseman with some swagger that the Astros have kind of needed this season. A little bit of a swag champ, like I've been saying. Looking at John Singleton's stats, he has 5 home runs with a .213 batting average, a .316 on base percentage, and a .649 OPS, bringing his OPS plus to the highest he's had in his career of 89. I do think that John Singleton can bring production as a first baseman to many major league teams that don't have an all-star first baseman already there. I am optimistic about what Singleton can bring. However, this really puts the pressure on Singleton. Pardon me, folks. My voice still is struggling here as I'm getting better. But I do think, it puts the pressure on Singleton. It puts the pressure on the roster. It makes things a little bit more tense in that clubhouse now that a vet has walked out because he can't produce. So, I know a lot of people are like, well, that's good. That's good, Paul. They need to feel the pressure. If you can't do your job, you need to get fired. They need to move on from you, Paul. You can't have a losing mentality. I do understand that. We do want the Astros to have a winning mentality, but how would you feel at work if somebody made a mistake and they ceremoniously got fired and everybody around you was like, well, you just got to do your job. You can't make a mistake. The pressure's on. That's not going to lead to a better workplace environment. And truly, at the end of the day, these are people. A lot of people like to treat athletes like they're video game characters or little Pokemon cards that they can just sub in and out because they there's no feelings to them. They're just objects. But, this really is going to put the pressure on this team. And how this team responds to this pressure is going to be big. We're hoping they can win. But this really is going to be tough for this club. This club has very much been middling. This baseball team has been a mid-tier team all season long and has struggled to break above 500. Now, if the Astros struggle to break above 500, you can't blame the Abreu contract anymore. In fact, if the Astros, God forbid, miss the playoffs, where is this going to put GM Dana Brown? Where is this going to put Astros owner Jim Crane? Sorry about that, Jim Crane. Too many Jim and James in my notes. I'm getting confused. But of course I know Crane is the owner of the Astros. I just get a little lost in my notes sometimes. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot harder for the reactions of this team if they are not able to succeed now. So the pressure is really on for this team. I don't think that this is a great day to be an Astros fan just because Jose Abreu is walking. It also puts the pressure on who is going to be the backup first baseman. If you look at the Astros this season, we're really hoping for, a lot of fans were hoping for Joey Loperfido to come up and play first base. But look, the Astros could be making a huge mistake here, but if a professional baseball team is hesitant to start a young player in a position, that probably means that young player can't field that position on a major league level. I have not watched Joey Loperfido play first base. I have caught some Sugarland Space Cowboys games, but I don't know from my own perspective if Joey Loperfido is really that tragic at first. But what I do know is that they don't trust him to play first base on a major league level. So whether that is, because he can't field it, or whether it's just something silly that the Astros see. The Astros know a whole lot more about baseball than I do. I trust them as an organization as to why Joey Loperfido isn't playing first. Until I see more of Joey Loperfido myself, I really can't say. So I trust that he isn't ready for first base. But where does that put us? I mentioned Cesar Salazar, mi primo. He is now on the team. When they added that third catcher, obviously it's because Yainer Diaz is still recovering from an injury. In a season full of injuries, the Astros just can't shake any injury off. So we have a third catcher to back up Caratini just in case Caratini is unable to catch. But also I thought perhaps this could mean that Caratini or Yainer might be subbed in at first. Because now having a third catcher makes it possible that one of those two catchers can actually play first without manager Joe Espada having to worry about third catchers with having to sub in a catcher. You have that third catcher to sub in defensively. But Caratini and Diaz have both not played first base this season. The only people that played first base are Jose Abreu, John Singleton, and utility Gold Glover Mauricio Dubon, who has never looked that comfortable at first, in my opinion. He can field the position. Obviously, he's done it before. He'll do it again. So I guess it just is. My question here is who is going to be the backup first baseman to John Singleton? And that is important because John Singleton hasn't actually, while he did have a really good May, he hasn't really looked so far his career as an everyday first baseman. And I'm not saying he can't be that. I'm not saying he isn't capable of that. But when the Astros need to win, we're going to need a backup first baseman until we can see that Singleton is capable of doing of competing every day on the first base level, both defensively and to bring some slugging to this team and bring some RBIs to this team. I think, if the Astros aren't able to have a backup first baseman, that could really spell trouble, not just because this team has had a lot of injuries, but because we are going to need production from that backup, because most likely this will be a platoon. Maybe it will be like an 80-20 split, not that much of a platoon, but it still will be a bit of a platoon. So is it going to be Trey Cabbage? Is it going to be Joey Loperfido? Is it going to be Yainer Diaz or Victor Caratini? We don't know. I mean, it could be David Hensley. Who knows? The ghost of David Hensley coming back to play first base for the Houston Astros. I don't know who this first baseman will be, but that player will be very imperative on this roster because we will need production from that backup. I don't know going forward. Obviously, it's not like we're going to miss Jose Abreu's offensive production, But what we will need is for production to happen at a pretty stellar level from who is coming in to take his roster spot, whether that's just pinch hitting and pinch running, or whatever that person is, whoever that person is, whatever their job is on the team. We are going to need them to fully execute on this team, not just because we need wins, but because we're going to need to see some value out of cutting Jose Abreu besides just getting rid of him. Obviously, the Astros were able to, deal with offensive struggling production last season. We had Abreu and we had Maldonado, so it's kind of tough to see that the Astros are just not able to keep this veteran on the team and to kind of figure it out. Now, I just don't understand. Maybe Abreu just didn't want to sit. Maybe he didn't want to be platooned, and maybe he requested. But I really thought that there was a reality in which Jose Abreu would be a guy off of the bench until we figured him out. But that obviously wasn't the case. The Astros kind of having to eat this contract, is going to be tough. Obviously, I think a lot of Astros fans everywhere are rejoicing today. They're very happy that Abreu isn't on the team. I do find it sad. I do find it tough because this is a person. This is a veteran. This is somebody that we did pay money for. So you do want to see the team get some value out of him. And yeah, it just didn't seem like the Astros were able to get too much value out of the Jose Abreu contract. And it's just now case closed and we're moving on. But with that being said, obviously we are looking optimistically to these Astros. If I was Jose Abreu, I'd be feeling pretty terrible today, and I'd start looking for other job prospects. We're wishing you the best out there, JA. We really are. But if I was Astros manager Joe Espada, what would I do in this situation? I think, I really think Loperfido is not. The team doesn't want him on the major level playing too many games. I think they want next season to be the Loperfido rookie season. I think that his strikeout rate is just way too high right now. He's still figuring out some things, and I know a lot of Astros fans are like, if we just had Loperfido, then we would be great. They just see the home run totals, and they don't see anything else. I get it. Home runs are sexy. Home runs are cool. But if the team is saying that Joey Loperfido is not ready, then Joey Loperfido is not ready. It's the same thing like Yainer Diaz last season. Everybody thinks they know how to run a baseball team. Everybody thinks they know what the best thing to do is. And they're like, we don't need Maldonado. We need Yainer Diaz in there. Yeah, we might have wanted Yainer Diaz's offense. We might have wanted that pop. But Yainer Diaz was swinging at everything last season. I mean, he's still swinging at everything. You need somebody who isn't just going to go out there and get strikeouts all the time. I know a lot of people in baseball like the three outcome, hitter, where you either hit a home run, you take a walk, or you strike out. But that's really not how the Astros value hitters and value their lineup spots. We don't want that. That truly is not a good thing. So last season, when everybody thought they were a general manager and wanted Yainer Diaz, people still think that if Yainer Diaz was out there, we would have won the World Series. I don't think so. I think we would have probably ended up with very similar amounts of outcomes because I don't think that Yainer Diaz would have gone out there and just hit a bunch of home runs or would have had amazing pop time or pitch framing. We have seen what happens when you catch a whole season. There's a reason why Maldonado was valued more as a veteran leader over Yainer Diaz. And I only bring that up to say that, yeah, sure, we could speculate as to what could have happened if everything went well for Yainer Diaz, but as a young, struggling player, he was still trying to find a strike zone, still trying to find consistency, both on the offensive and the catching side of the game. He wasn't ready. The Astros were right. Now, of course, we wanted to win the World Series. We always want to win, but there are some things more important than just speculatively winning a baseball game. You want to develop players. You don't want to rush their development. And I think that the Astros are worried about rushing Joey Loperfido's development. I don't think it's a money thing or a baseball contract thing, but that could be the case too. There are financial ramifications to pulling a player up early. So for whatever reason, the Astros are not ready to bring Loperfido up, it seems like. We shall see. I've been wrong about so many things in the past. I was wrong about them bringing up Loperfido earlier this year. I thought they wouldn't bring Loperfido up until the summer. Now, we will see. I think that the Astros are setting up Trey Cabbage perhaps to be the backup first baseman, splitting that time with Mauricio Dubon. I don't know what I would do here if I was Joe Espada. I think I would probably. I think that Caratini probably could be a nice backup first baseman if he's willing to field that position. Maybe you don't want to get him away from game planning so much, so maybe you go with Cabbage. So those would be my kind of options there. Dubon is a smaller guy, but if he is willing to play first base and field the position, then yeah, he could be out there too. We will see if Loperfido is coming back up or if he will remain with the Sugarland Space Cowboys for the immediate future. And with that being said, we are kind of also looking at that outfield here, mentioning Cabbage. Moving on from Jose Abreu, looking towards this outfield, with Cabbage being part of the team for so long, with Tucker being injured and out, Trey Cabbage really has stepped up and played a lot more baseball than I was anticipating him to do. So it's been tough because Myers had a really good month. McCormick has been struggling. Cabbage has been rising. But someone just really needs to take one of these outfield positions. It's been tough to do the platoon thing and trying to tape together one outfielder out of Myers and McCormick and Cabbage. And it's been kind of tough for me because I've been wanting to see more Dubon. Mauricio Dubon has been a great player. He is a great utility player, and I want to see a little bit more Mauricio Dubon in the mix. I think he deserves to be an everyday starting player, Mauricio Dubon. Now, I do think that when you play so many different positions and swap out so much, maybe you want a little bit more rest to prep for some days and prep for some stuff so maybe 5 out of 7 days a week, or 4 out of 6 games, whatever you want to say. I do think maybe an everyday starter might be a little much for Dubon, but I do want to see more Dubon in there. And maybe this will clear space for Dubon if Cabbage is going to play more first, or maybe Dubon plays more first. Seeing more Mauricio Dubon in there would be great for me. And honestly, seeing one of these outfielders just really taking the reins, taking the opportunity that's presented to them, and saying that this is my starting spot this season is really what the Astros need. I think Joe Espada has done an admirable job of balancing all of the baby birds in his outfield nest, trying to make sure everybody is fed, making sure everybody has an opportunity. But at this point in the season, we need some consistency. So until Kyle Tucker comes back, one of these guys is really going to need to step up, say, I am the third outfielder in the Astros outfield, and I want to take this job, and I'm going to be the starter, and everybody else is going to have to follow in the depth chart behind me. I don't know who that is. I do, McCormick has shown plenty of flashes. He has played great in the playoffs. He has had a great season last year. Myers has always proven to be a great defender in the outfield with his jump StatCast statistic jumping off the page. He had a great month. He shows signs of being a great hitter and a great defender, but he hasn't really found that consistency. Trey Cabbage is your 3-out come hitter in the outfield. He seems to have a decent glove. Not exactly a plus glove, but not exactly a minus glove out there. And you're seeing that he could have some potential to be a huge slugger in this league if he can figure it out. And then, of course, you have Mauricio Dubon, who is able to get a hit at all times, never strikes out, and probably has the best arm in the outfield. So hopefully one of those guys can figure it out and take a starting job so that when Kyle Tucker is back, we have more consistency and we know who to rely on in this lineup and who to sub in and sub out for the spell days. It's definitely we'll see how that outfield shakes up, but I'm really hoping that somebody steps up and says, "This is my job. This is my time. I'm taking it." And yeah, like I think, let's see. I put in my notes yesterday. I have these Abreu notes. It's like it's pretty funny here. I was talking about who's to blame for the Abreu. These were my notes from yesterday as to what I was going to say about Abreu. Like, who is to blame? Why is this happening? Why is he starting so much? Who is to blame? I think the reason why he was starting so much, obviously now, like I said earlier, the team was trying to figure out where he is, where he's at, so they can figure out what direction to take with him. Obviously, they put him in a spot he didn't do well, and they decided to take the direction of cutting him. I was like, is this coming from the owner? Which I think now, yes, it was coming from the owner. Like, I'm not panicking on Abreu, but where is Crane's line is one of my things there. Obviously, I wasn't panicking on Abreu because I was thinking that he could be on the bench a lot more. It looks like Abreu wanted to start a lot more, and they were trying to figure out if that was a reality in which the Astros could deal with starting Abreu as he's struggling. Abreu wasn't bringing the results, so obviously Crane's line on panicking was full panic. He was ready to see what Abreu had and to move on from him. And like I said, I've been asking for a platoon. I didn't understand why they didn't give it to him. I think, perhaps Abreu wasn't willing to platoon as much as the Astros wanted him to, but I think the Astros did him a disservice by bringing him up in the series. They brought him up by not platooning him as much as they did and by putting him in those spots. But maybe that's what Abreu wanted and that's where he wants to play. I don't know. Time will tell. We will get more information and figure it out as we go. That's why you don't want to get too much of a hot take until you get more information on it. But yeah, who is the scapegoat in here? Like I was saying earlier, I really think you can't blame Espada for too much of this. Espada has done a great job, I think, as a manager with this team, with its expectations, with all of its injuries. Keeping the Astros within a puncher's chance in this division has been a good thing for Espada. Now, under different circumstances, perhaps, we would judge him a little more harshly. But with what he was given in the beginning of the season, with what injuries have dealt the Astros, and with, the owner and it seems like the front office kind of telling him, who to, what to lean towards and what directions, as a rookie manager, not wanting to rock the boat too much and wanting to find success without trying to create much panic or much drama. I think he's done great. I think it's too soon to really tell about Dana Brown with a lot of things here. I think it's funny that, everybody has an opinion in this day and age, and everything's very volatile and angry. But there was a prolific Houston sports tweeter that was like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. He basically said, like, how could the Astros go from perennial winners to garbage in one season? And to that guy, I just want to be like, what is your definition of bad? Because you're so spoiled that you literally see what is an average baseball team and say that it's garbage and it's terrible. Like, how good is your life and how good have things been for you when a perfectly average and good baseball team is something that is so offensive to you. This, you've been spoiled by excellence if you think that this is bad, because this baseball team, hilariously enough, is not a bad baseball team. This is a mediocre to solid baseball team. But anyway, that all being aside, this guy saying like, how did they go from basically best to worst, which is very hyperbolic and very silly, but good for him on getting those ex-boys all riled up and getting those likes. Good for you. Good for you leaning into hate so you get those likes. I hope they're tasty. I hope you eat them in a cereal bowl with milk and nom 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 nom. They nourish you. All of your hate nourishes you. I really do hope that. But the highest comment on that X was from Jeff Lunau's wife, who said that it was karma. The Astros getting karma for letting Lunau go, which, I don't know how the Astros are getting blamed for letting the general manager go in the middle of a scandal and how that's karma. I mean, there was a lot of things going on. Now, for sure, like, trust me, I wish the Astros had the guts to say, like, this cheating scandal isn't a big thing. We're keeping our general manager. But for those of you who do not remember what it was like during that time, there were a lot of people calling for the Astros to be removed from baseball altogether, that they couldn't even play anymore. The hate was strong. The owner, Jim Crane, he definitely made the decision that we had to move on from the general manager and the manager, so Lunau and Hinch had to go. He did that preemptively before the league maybe said something about it, but I don't think this has anything to do with Lunau. If anything, it has to do with the karma bound click. But even so, that is silly. I mean, it's a reach. I think it's pretty funny. People always want to bring up the idea of karma around the Houston Astros. Karma this and karma that. Like they are experts on Eastern religion. You are some of the most hateful Western religion people in the world, and people are throwing around the word karma like they understand it. It's ridiculous. Folks, this has nothing to do with karma. Like if karma was a real thing, a lot of us would be a whole lot happier because we get a lot of bad things happening to us in our life. Karma isn't a real thing. It's in baseball, at least. Like this isn't karma. Like I do subscribe to the idea of what goes around comes around, of course. But I'm not trying to say that this has anything to do with karma. I don't know because then we could just keep going back as to what's a good thing that happened and then what's a bad thing that happened. Oh, there's Carla. She's on mic. It's okay, Carla. She's very excited about this. It's okay. I get it. But the thing is, what I was going to say is we played the Cardinals, last week. And, when we're talking about karma, people completely forget about the Cardinals scandal where they stole data from the Astros. They stole scouting data from the Astros. Where was the karma? Where's the karma for that? You know what I mean? Like there's so many bad things that happen. There's so many weird things that happen. To say that karma is something that is absolutely silly. What this is bad business decisions, right? This contract was probably not the contract to sign. And I know a lot of people are going to be dunking on Abreu today. And I don't mean this to dunk on people as much as I didn't really think that this was the best contract signing to begin with. And, I don't like to be a, Monday morning quarterback too much. I definitely, in retrospect, having all the information, I could sit here and do a podcast where all I do is rag on the managers and rag on the general manager to be like, see, I was right. If they would have done this, they would have won, and I was right. It's really easy to do that. It really is, because with all the information at your fingertips, and with a little bit of baseball knowledge, you could really sit here and seem like a genius and seem like the other person is an idiot. It's really easy to do that kind of media, and a lot of people do it, but that's not what I want to do here. But all I'm trying to say is that this Abreu contract was never my jam. Peter, my friend Peter, the New York Yankees fan, I literally pulled up the receipts. On November 28th, 2022, he texted me, "Wow, Jose Abreu. Christmas came early. Wow." To which I responded, "LOL, I think I'd rather have Yuli and Mancini. We'll see what the contract is, but I'm nervous if it's 3 years, $60 million. They should have gave me that GM, bro. That GM job, bro." And then I put in, an asterisk, me Googling Abreu's age. And to which the my Yankees fan friend Peter said, "Abreu is one of the best men in baseball, strong bat, great clubhouse guy, good glove." Yeah, all good points. Would you have just paid yourself that money to play first? And yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm being silly, of course. And yeah, I would have paid myself, Comedy Sports Sunday team style, to and be the conductor on the train on my days off. But yeah, I think the Abreu contract wasn't too exciting to me because of his age, because of the money, and because I was a Utley fan and even like a Mancini fan, and I was like, maybe we could find a little more affordable thing. But that being said, I still cheered on Jose Abreu because he was still on my team. So it's tough to see Abreu gone. It's definitely tough to see so many people celebrate a guy struggling. But the Astros are going to move forward. Hopefully they are going to start winning games. And honestly, when you're out there today, just be kind, be nice. You don't have to dunk on people when they're down, especially if they're not a bad person. Like, what are we even doing? So be kind to Jose Abreu, be kind to the Astros. We're gonna turn this around. Hopefully, Jose Abreu can turn it around too. He can find success with some other team and kind of enjoy the twilight of his career. You don't want to see this be the end result for somebody with the team, but hopefully he'll turn it around. Hopefully the Astros will find a way to turn it around, and they'll be able to start climbing up the rankings now that they kind of have this distraction behind them. Going forward, we're looking at a series with Detroit this weekend. We're playing the Detroit Tigers this evening. The Astros will be playing the Detroit Tigers at Minute Maid Park. We have Hunter Brown going up against Skubal, who left-handed pitcher from Tariq Skubal from the Tigers. He will be out there. He's had a great season, going 8-1 with 96 strikeouts so far on the season. We have Hunter Brown, who's going up against him, who has really been turning around lately. Hopefully he will continue his success and find more wins in the future. On the 15th, on Saturday, the next second game there, Justin Verlander will be taking the mound for the Houston Astros, where hopefully he can kind of find his consistency. He's had a little bit of an up and down season for Justin Verlander by Hall of Fame standards, of course. He's still Justin Verlander, but hopefully we need that ace right now in our rotation. Ronald Blanco has been great, but we really need some veteran leadership, and we need an ace. Hopefully Verlander can bring that. The Detroit Tigers will be sending Jack Flaherty out there. Jack Flaherty has been a great pitcher for them this season. He's definitely getting good results. The Detroit Tigers team have been a sneakily good team, so this is not a team to sleep on. The Astros will have some fair competition in this series. In the third game of the series, the Tigers will be sending out Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda has had a really tough year so far. He tends to be a bit of an inning eater pitcher. His whip is at 1.4. His ERA is at 5.89. Out of the three pitchers the Tigers are sending out there, this seems to be the guy that the Astros could do the most damage against. They have had success against left-handed pitchers, but this guy's season has not been as stellar as the other two pitchers. In this game, the Astros will be sending out Spencer Arrighetti, we're having some spaghetti time. Spencer Arrighetti has been improving his season. The first start of the year, the first couple months of the season for Arrighetti when he wasn't in the minor leagues have been rough for him, but he's been turning it around recently, and hopefully he can keep finding success against this team. The Astros, hopefully will be rejuvenated with kind of a bit of a roster shakeup here. Hopefully this past week was a tough week for them, getting 3 losses so far in this week. They had a couple losses last week. This month, they really have to turn it on. I said the panic meter it's go time. It is go time, folks. This month, we are in the middle of this month. This team has done decently, but they really need to turn it on. They really need to win series in order to keep climbing up the ranks. The Mariners are starting to pull away. We cannot expect the other teams in the division to just play poorly so that the Astros can still stay within a puncher's chance. There is a reality in which the Astros can make the playoffs as a wild card, but that is not what this team needs to depend on because they have had so many mixed results. They need to get better, and they need to win series. So hopefully this is a move that will help the Astros move in the right direction and get more fire behind them. But we will see. We shall see, folks. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. You can find the podcast, you can find the blog, you can find all the memes on spacecadetsports.substack.com. Go check out the Substack. Go become a subscriber for free and get everything emailed directly into your email box or on the app, whatever your preference is. I've been your host, Paul Salazar Jr. You can find me online at Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media platforms. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're feeling about this Astros team. And if you're just here for the puppy pictures, you can get that too at good.dog.carla, where you can go find Carla and all her cute little pictures. Thank you so much for listening today, folks. The Astros will hopefully turn it around here. We're wishing success for both the Astros and for Jose Abreu. And remember, keep your head up. And as always, vamos Astros.